We do have breaking news here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. It looks like 70-year-old Rick Pitino is on the move. He has agreed on a 6-year deal to become St. John's coach. Pitino's taken 3 schools, Amal, to the Final Four. You and I agree, one of the great coaches of all time. 3 schools to the Final Four. Won an NCAA title at Kentucky and Louisville, and now makes a move to restore the Red Storm to Big East prominence. So it looks like Pitino on the move to St. John's.
Yeah, I think the Big East just changed because with the way the transfer portal works now, Patrick, think about the impact that we've seen some of these guys have immediately at additional schools. You see Marcus Carr, Timmy Allen, Tyrese Hunter. Texas is in a potential situation. They win 2 more games, they're going to be in a Final Four. They're not there if not for the transfer portal. There's other teams that I might be leaving out of the equation that I just can't think of right now, but it has had a profound impact in college basketball. And I think a guy like Rick Pitino with his recruiting ability, his previous success elsewhere, you're going to see them have a quick turnaround. I think you'll see, last couple of years under Mike Anderson, they play a lot more games at Carnesecca Arena, which is in Queens. They play the bigger games against the Georgetown, Villanova at Madison Square Garden. I think you'll see them playing a lot more at MSG. I think this team will have a quick revitalization of the program. Watch out for St. John's in the Big East and the turnaround. You mentioned it last week. Rick Pitino has won wherever he's gone. You go back to Providence, you look at what he's done in Iona, Kentucky, Louisville. He's been amazing, and I think you're going to see a great opportunity for St. John's to be on the rise very quickly.
Yeah, he's 70 years old, but certainly said he feels like he's got 10 years left in him. So at 70, Rick Pitino returns to the Big East with St. John's. You just mentioned it. When I used to live in New York City in Astoria, Queens, when you would go to the airport, you would pass the St. John's campus. It's odd how it's just kind of there in Queens, New York. It's not necessarily something. So you got to get to MSG. Your point is well taken. You got to get to MSG if you're St. John's.
Yeah, no question about it. You mentioned SJU is more of a commuter school, but the reality of it is a lot of places like that are like that in New York City. But again, if you can recruit New York City, you're going to have tremendous success. I mean, people realize how many great players have come from there in the past. And I think it's an exciting hire. I think it's a great fit for St. John's. And, look, the Big East, it's a tremendous conference. They got 3 teams in the Sweet 16, and I think they got 3 of their 4 best teams in there, which bodes well for them. The Big 12, which I've raved about all year long, had only got 2 teams into the Sweet 16. So good opportunity for the Big East to show out. And you look at the matchup for Creighton, they're going to be taking on Princeton. Great opportunity for them. Arkansas, UConn here in Las Vegas. I'll tell you what, if you're a college basketball fan and you're fortunate enough to be in Vegas or you're coming into town, what a bracket this one is in the West and the Midwest. I mean, you've got Arkansas, Connecticut, Gonzaga, and UCLA. And then in the Midwest, Houston, Miami, Xavier, and Texas.
Okay. Also, head coaching news. So Pitino to St. John's. Looks like Ed Cooley has agreed to a deal with Georgetown. I think he's getting north of $5 million per. Wow. Why the hell is Ed Cooley leaving Providence? He's from Rhode Island. He's from Providence. He's been there for 12 seasons. He's kind of built it into a really nice Big East school. Why would he leave for a team in Georgetown, a program that is in complete rebuild mode?
That's a great question, Patrick. I think the one point that I would argue is, and we saw them do the same thing. Remember, they got Bryce Hopkins from Kentucky to Providence. I believe he thinks, and I would agree with him, it's going to be easier to get guys from the D.C., the DMV, the D.C., Virginia area there. If you can recruit Prince George's County, you're going to be incredibly successful. But for people that don't know, and Patrick mentioned this, he played at PC. So it really is a little bit of a surprise to me. He would have been there until he basically retired, unless they had some sort of recruiting issue or violation. And I agree with you. I'm a little bit surprised by this move right now. Georgetown, for people like you and I, when we grew up, they were the program. That was in the 80s, though. Now when you look at it, Georgetown's been a has-been program. You had Craig Esherick, John Thompson III. You brought in Patrick Ewing. They just have not been able to be successful. It's a forgotten program. Maybe he can restore it to where it once was. I don't know if that'll happen immediately, though.
Okay, so those are the big news as we begin a week of shows here on Sharp Money. It's VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. Again, Rick Pitino to St. John's, and Cooley is headed to Georgetown. Does he have a tie to the Thompsons, or is this finally kind of breaking away from that Thompson tie at Georgetown?
Yeah, but remember, Big John Thompson played at Providence.
Interesting.
So my guess is he probably has a relationship with him. But I think the big thing is, then, Patrick, you brought this point up with St. John's. I think Ed Cooley can bring in an opportunity there in D.C. to be successful, because even though Willard, everybody likes him as a hire there, I think Cooley's going to do a much better job at Georgetown over the long haul than Willard will at Maryland.
Just 53. He looks older than he is. He's just 53. He's got 20 years to go. He could build Georgetown. I think you nailed it the way you kind of framed what's happening with St. John's. Exciting hire for them. We haven't heard excitement around that program since Carnesecca. Or, no, excuse me, when they hired your boy from Golden State, Mullen. When they brought back one of the great players of college basketball history. However, he didn't do anything as a head coach.
By the way, quick question for you. Outside of Larry Bird, can you think of too many great players in basketball that have been good coaches? Magic was a failure. Ewing was a failure. Mullen, Hall of Famer, Dream Team member, is a failure. We've seen Jordan fail as an owner. It just seems like great players and people that get into coaching or ownership, they don't seem to do particularly well.
Steve Kerr, good player, great coach. I'm trying to think just off the top of mine. Jackson, good player, great coach for the Knicks back in the day, and then obviously won all the championships. I can't really think top of mind. Magic, a disaster, as you just mentioned.
Isaiah Thomas,
did a pretty good job in India. Isaiah Thomas, a disaster. Yeah, it's a point well taken.
Go to VSiN.com/subscribe to become a VSiN Pro subscriber today.